Warwick Evans with TVB's Newsfile. Motorists will pay more for their petrol with a 10% price hike announced by Shell. The increase goes into effect tomorrow. Here's Betty Liu.
The new charges will go up at all Shell filling stations after midnight. An extra 23 cents per litre for Super Shell and 10 cents more for dieseline. The Shell company blamed the hike, this year's second, on the substantial strengthening of the U.S. dollar against the Hong Kong dollar. A company spokesman said the rise in greenback has edged past reductions in posted prices on international oil markets. Meanwhile, Mobil says it's closely monitoring the situation, while Esso said that it will soon follow Shell's footsteps. However, Shell made it clear today that no immediate changes are proposed in the price of LP gas or industrial fuel, although the possibility of higher costs in future was not ruled out. Betty Liu for TVB News.
The police have ended their search of a Chim Sa Choi building after failing to find two armed robbers. They had launched the hunt following a hold-up at a watch company nearby in which 3 people were shot and wounded. Ellen Dyer has the story.
Both police and residents had seen the robbers flee into the Windsor mansion on Chatham Road yesterday, and the men had abandoned $1.3 million worth of watches stolen from a Nathan Road company on the sidewalk outside. But by 1 p.m. today, the police search of the 136 flats in the building was over. The robbers weren't there. The thugs, armed with 25 and 45 caliber weapons, had fired at least 10 rounds. The police, some 29, in the dramatic pursuit to Chatham Road after the robbery. District Police Commander Jack Johnston said police are now pursuing 1 or 2 leads in the case. He said police had done all they could to catch the robbers, but added the following comments.
We could have done more if we had more information. If we had had good descriptions, we could have done more. Unfortunately, car numbers and taxi cab numbers and that weren't available to us. But we will continue looking for them, and we will do it through our various ways.
An Australian tourist has been admitted to hospital suffering from the El Tor strain of cholera. It's the second case reported in Hong Kong in 2 months, but the government says Hong Kong will not be declared a cholera-infected area because both cases were contracted elsewhere. An Iranian airliner carrying 57 French nationals has left Tehran on its way to Paris. The 57 were the first of 2 groups scheduled to leave Iran this week. A further 140 hope to fly out on Wednesday. Anti-French feelings have been building up in Iran since the decision by the French government to grant political asylum to ousted Iranian President Abul Hassan Banisadr. One top religious leader, Ayatollah Meshkini, has even suggested that the French embassy could be occupied.
During his sermon, he threatened France with reprisals unless the fugitive former President Banisadr and leftist guerrilla leader Massoud Rajavi were extradited. The Ayatollah warned President Mitterrand that in the same way the Iranian people had stood up to America with clenched fists, they would do to France. Although Meshkini is a senior cleric, his statement was in no way official, and the French government, attempting to defuse the crisis, played down its impact. But the danger of the French embassy in Tehran being taken over by zealots cannot be discounted. The situation there on Sunday was reported as calm, but the walls were covered in anti-French posters and graffiti. The Paris government remains cautiously confident that the authorities will allow the 116 French citizens to leave on Monday and Wednesday of this week. But after the American experience, nothing is being taken for granted.
Canadian air traffic controllers have stopped processing flights to and from the United States in solidarity with their striking American colleagues. They join French and New Zealand controllers who have already introduced similar sanctions. Union and transportation officials in the United States appear no closer to agreement than they were a week ago when the strike started, but air services across the country are running as normally as can be expected. Portuguese Prime Minister Francisco Pinto Balsemão has formally submitted his resignation to President Antonio Yanes. Mr. Balsemão, who had been in office for 7 months, cited a lack of support within his Social Democratic Party as a reason for his stepping down. He had earlier failed to win unanimous endorsement of his leadership from the party in a vote of confidence. That's the news for the moment. I'll be back at around 11:35 with News Roundup. In the meantime, have a very pleasant evening.
It's now time on the Pearl for tonight's Studio 930.